Welcome to the Penny Bloom Podcast. Ain't another place that has got more bombast. Romp past your mom, dad's listening to Tomcats. Talking everything that make you sad. We don't want that. We're here to make you smile. Put your mind at ease. Peace, love, and bloom, and always praise Keanu Reeves. This what we about. This some weeding now. We'll talk until we can't no more, and then we peacing out. Alright, let's go. Penny Bloom Podcast. It's the Penny Bloom Podcast. Penny Bloom Podcast. It's the Penny Bloom Podcast. Penny Bloom Podcast. Penny Bloom Podcast.
Hello, everybody, and welcome in to Rebellion's Bloom, a Star Wars podcast by us, the Penny Bloom Podcast. And us might be in a bit of an exaggeration today, as I am alone. I am Colton Robertson, joined by no one. And for those on Patreon, I know you already know that, but I'm going to start this episode spoiler-free. And that spoiler-free section is going on the main show. It's going for the wide audience to hear. Everybody gets a little piece of the pie for the spoiler-free stuff about Star Wars: The High Republic, Convergence, written by Zoraida Cordova. This book fucked. I'm not gonna lie, it was incredible, and you know it's an interesting one because I have I love the High Republic books so far, all of them. I don't think they've missed, and this continues that trend. They still haven't missed. It's fucking incredible, but it didn't look like it was going to be as incredible as it ended up being for a while into the book. You know, the first half of the book wasn't underwhelming, but it didn't reel me in. You know, they left me wanting. They left me wanting for a while, and that wanting was fulfilled. The back half of this book is amongst my favorite of any of the High Republic books. You know, I think that the back half of this really is the strength of this book, where it's usually the opposite for any Star Wars book in general for me. Usually I like the low-key moments spent with the characters, getting to know them, and then throwing them into the thick of it. They get into the action bit of it, and it starts to be a little less fulfilling as a reader. This was on the flip side of that, where I was a little underwhelmed by the dull moments spent with the characters, and then once we bring everybody together that it starts to really hit its stride, because I find myself with one of my new favorite groups in all of the galaxy in this book with Gela, the Jedi Knight Gela is Gela Natai, very, very cool. She's joined by Axel Greylark, Ziri Albaran, and Funtu Zen. I just came off the book. I'm reeling. I'm reeling a bit because the end of this book is a bit. I mean, it's the best ending to a High Republic book from the perspective of someone who likes their favorite characters living. You know, I'm not usually left so satisfied at the end of a High Republic book. You know, the stakes in this one, they are life and death. They are life and death stakes. But there's layers to it, you know. Axel Greylark is the son of the Chancellor of the Galaxy, and Chancellor Greylark, one of two Chancellors, which I thought was cool about this one. That they have co-chancellors at this point in the High Republic, which I thought was very interesting. But yeah, he's probably my favorite character from this book. You know, not from a personal like, oh man, I love that guy. He makes good choices and is a beacon of hope for the galaxy. Nah, he's a scoundrel. He's kind of a scumbag, but he's got a heart to him, which is exactly what you want from our scoundrels and scumbags. You know, he feels like the natural heir apparent to Lando Calrissian, but as you continue to watch his story unfold, you find that he's almost got even greater dimensions to him, which is it's saying a lot, because Lando Calrissian is one of my favorite characters in all of Star Wars, and this guy, I mean, he expands on the sort of scoundrel versus hero archetype even more than Lando did. You know, Han Solo's obviously the pinnacle of that sort of thing, but then yet on top of Han Solo, what if Han Solo was the son of the Chancellor of the Galaxy? Then what? You know, that's kind of what you're dealing with Axel Greylark, and the way that his back and forth, his repertoire with Gela Natai throughout this book plays out, very, very cool. I love those two characters, and I love Gela Natai as a Jedi. She's one of my favorites. As far as the Jedi introduced in the High Republic, you know, I have great love for Loden Greatstorm and Bel Zettifar and Elzar Mann and Stellan Gios, Avar Kriss, Keeve Trennis. You know, like all these Jedi are fucking amazing. They put forth quite the introduction here with Gela Natai. She's super fucking cool. Just because she's, I don't know, a bit more. She's more in that Bel Zettifar sort of camp where she's a little bit more relatable. She's got a mind on her that, you know, is rational, but she is steadfast in her belief in the Jedi way. You know, she wants to be a way seeker, which I think is really cool. We obviously know that Orla Jareni, if you're a fan of the High Republic, is our premier way seeker. One of the ones that we go back to is like, oh yeah, that was fucking cool. That was fucking cool. But this book just introduced so many great new characters, and those two were definitely a highlight for me. But Ziri Albaran and Fantu Zen, that is a dynamic that is one of my favorites in Star Wars of all time. An all-time great story for Star Wars, as far as, like, you know, we don't deal a lot with, like, royalty in Star Wars. You know, I know Leia was Princess of Alderaan, and we've had those sorts of mentions, but we haven't gone into the depths of royal and interplanetary war that happens between royal families on different planets. I think that's really fucking cool. And Fantu Zen finds himself the heir apparent to the throne of Irem, and Ziri finds herself the heir apparent to Arano, and we obviously hear a lot about Irem and Arano by means of the first few books in the High Republic, because I'll tell you what, that the Irem and Arano being relevant in, like, I think it was the Fallen Star, the last one. I loved the story that we got there, and the flashbacks with, like, maybe that was. It all blends together. It all blends together in the High Republic. But the flashbacks we got to Irem and Arano, and the conflicts they have between, like, Orla Jareni and flashbacks and stuff, like, very, very cool stuff. And to see this even further back in the timeline, this is 382 BBY according to Wikipedia. This book takes place, and it's a very long time before any stuff we've seen in the High Republic or in the movies and shows. But I really love the dynamic there. The fact that Irem and Arano are locked in this forever war, a war that will not stop, started by monarchs who have almost lost sight of why they're fighting. You know, Ziri's dad he's basically senile at this point. He's an old man sending his soldiers out to fucking die, and it's not doing anyone any good. And on the other side, you know, I think that Irem's queen is, you know, she's doing what she's got to do, but you know, there's fault on all sides. There's fault on all sides when it's war. You know what I'm saying? Like, war ain't good for nobody. War, what is it good for? You know what I'm saying? And yeah, but I mean, like, all in all, the way this book resolves itself, it's hard to not go into spoilers with that sort of thing. It's so fucking satisfying. Everything you want out of this book comes once you get to the middle stretch of this book. It is all gas, no brakes. You are in for a fucking ride after you get to a certain point in this book, and it's a great joy to read. You know, a bunch of new Jedi that were introduced alongside Gela Natai, who I thought were very, very cool. I loved Enya. She was such a sweetie, and I thought for sure she's got a character who's going to die written all over her, Enya Keen. At some point, she's on my watch list because she don't seem safe just because she's one of those characters who's posed as like, everybody loves her. Oh, she's such a sweetie. She's the heart of all of us. Ah, man. When it comes to the High Republic, that means they're not fucking safe. You know what I'm saying? That means they're gonna fucking die. So I'd look out for Enya. I'm a hold on to her while I have her. That's one thing I'll spoil for you. Enya doesn't die, but doesn't look good. We got the introduction of Sharil Roy, who was a very interesting Jedi Master, of a Syrian Jedi Master, if I'm not mistaken. Kind of in the same vein as Ki-Adi-Mundi. The same setup he's got going on there species-wise. But, another very well-spoken Jedi Master who is very, very in tune with the Force and is very, he's a steadfast Jedi, one of the better ones out there. And, there was a bunch of really cool character introductions. Creighton's son, another Jedi, very, very cool. He was a little bit closer to... he spent a little bit more time one-on-one with Gela throughout this book, and you get to know him a little bit more, and it's very interesting knowing that he is the one that is on the cover of the Battle of Jedha book, alongside his apprentice Ada, who you do meet in this book as well. Very briefly, Ada Forte shows up, and she sounds like a dandy character. I'm very excited for Battle of Jedha next up, but all in all, I'm left thinking this is one of my favorite High Republic books. I think it was beautifully written. Just getting the landscape of how Irem and Arano contrast with each other as far as like landscape is concerned was super fucking cool. I love that they're like opposite worlds, but they have more in common than they think, and it's like I just love a story about uniting the people, and that's the goal of this book anyway. And it's a super good one, but I'm thinking about, while I'm here on the spoiler-free stuff, going ahead and throwing it on the Star Wars reading ranking, because man, it's high. It's high up there. I don't know how high. I think I do like it more than Path of Deceit earlier this year. The other new edition from the High Republic Phase 2. And I have that at 7 in my Star Wars reading ranking. That's a high ranking. The 3 right above it are Rising Storm, Light of the Jedi, The Fallen Star. Now, the question becomes, do I like this book more than I like really The Light of the Jedi, Rising Storm, or The Fallen Star? I don't know. I don't know if I can... I think I might have myself a new top 5. I think I might have myself a new top 5 in Convergence. Because I loved Light of the Jedi. That was such a good book, and it was such an awesome way to introduce us to a new era of characters. This book had a harder job. This is the first after Path of Deceit where, we got a whole slate of characters in High Republic Phase 1 that we grew so attached to, so in love with. And Cordova had to give us a new slate of characters that was going to get us in the same way. And it doesn't get us in the same way. It gets us in a whole completely different way, and it's still every bit as satisfying, which is something I didn't anticipate. It's a completely different type of story than what is told in The Light of the Jedi. The Light of the Jedi feels so much more grandiose and all-encompassing of the entire Jedi Order and stuff. And this is very, very focused. I think it takes what Path of Deceit did, very, very well as compared to a lot of Phase 1, was it was incredibly narratively tight as far as who the story is told from the perspective of. It was like we are basically surrounding 2 characters here, whereas the original Phase 1 of the High Republic, it felt like we could be going from like 10 perspectives at any given in any given book. This one does expand on Path of Deceit a little bit, but it tightens up as compared to Phase 1, and it's more from the perspective of like 4, maybe 5 characters at most at any given point. And I really, really like that. I really, really like that about this book. And if you're not a reader, if you're not a big High Republic, if you're not a big reader, I strongly suggest audiobook. This is another fantastic edition by Mark Thompson. He's a fantastic narrator, and he just continues to body it with all the different voices and all the different styles. You know, he's got all his impressions down very, very well. He can emulate species very, very nicely. Like, there's a Mon Cala that appears in this book, and I hear the Mon Cala. You know, like that's how he bends his voice, and it's very satisfying. But yeah, man, I think I got a new top 5 here. I think the only one I'm gonna place it below, as compared to Phase 1, is The Fallen Star. I love The Fallen Star. I love Claudia Gray, and it was such a good fucking way to cap off Phase 1. But this was such a fucking amazing way to open up Phase 2 on the adult novel side. Adult novel, I say. I mean, it's not young adult novel. It's just the other ones. It was so fucking nice. It was such a great addition. It was such a great addition to this already fantastic side of the franchise. The High Republic continues to be my favorite thing in modern Star Wars. You know, Andor kind of fucked that for the High Republic. Sorry, Andor's definitely the best shit I've seen ever. My favorite Star Wars thing ever. But this modernly, man, I can't honestly tell you something excites me more than the High Republic. You know, Mandalorian Season 3 around the corner. The Bad Batch Season 2 around the corner. I'm looking forward to the Battle of Jeddah. You know, I'm looking forward to Cataclysm. I cannot wait for these things. The High Republic has me absolutely hooked. Now, you know, I can't wait for Mando Season 3 either. I can't wait for the Bad Batch Season 2 either. So, what the fuck do I know? Maybe I don't know what I'm talking about, but I can assure you that this book is worth your time. It is worth the read. You do not need to read any other High Republic book before getting into it. I mean, maybe Path of Deceit would help. There's a little bit of Path of the Open Hand stuff in there, and but I almost think it would be interesting. You know, I'm in the place where I read Path of Deceit before I read Convergence, so I know what the Path of the Open Hand is all about. But if you have not read the Path of Deceit, it might be interesting to engage with them for the first time in this book and then see who they truly are in the Path of Deceit. That would be I think that'd be worth your while as well. So either way, I think you're looking at a good starting spot with either Path of Deceit or Convergence if you're looking to just jump in balls deep into Phase 2, because I mean, I strongly recommend it. I strongly recommend that you pick up these books because it's more than worth your while. I've got to look like I'm crushing on Gela Natai. I'm crushing on Axel Greylark. Frankly, I fucking love that guy. There's so much character there that I'm just so excited to explore in these coming books in Phase 2, like, and the way that the Path of the Open Hand is steadily presenting themselves as a bigger and bigger part of the galaxy. People are learning who they are still, even though they've already done some pretty big stuff. Like, it's gonna be super awesome to see where Phase 2 goes. I can't believe we're only 2 books deep. Feels like I feel like I need it all. I need it all in my hands now. I want it all. But yeah, man, I'll leave you with this. If I'm rating this book out of 10, this is damn fucking close to a 10. Like, the High Republic hasn't really missed in that regard. I tend to view all these books in extremely loving lights, and this one, like I said, did start a little bit on the fence for me, but all in all, by the end of it, like I said, I'm left with this being my second favorite High Republic book ever, and that says a lot because these books have been fucking outstanding. I'm just so excited to be getting in on the ground floor with this phase. You know, I jumped into Phase 1 after all 3 of the Phase 1 books were out. So I had the chance to read all of them back to back to back, and I'm so excited to be jumping in from the ground floor for Phase 2. I'm picking up the High Republic comics. I'm picking up the High Republic Adventures. I mean, I'm putting this out Wednesday, so today, by IDW Publishing. Super excited about that. The High Republic has me hooked, and I'm trying to get Joseph on this shit. I'm trying to get him to engage with the High Republic. I know it's hard. It's reading. It's not the same as viewing something, but as soon I can't tell you how much more my Star Wars enjoyment world opened up once I started reading the books. It's just a different fucking ball game over there. The way that you can expand on these characters it's all the more meaningful and all the more telling of who these characters are, to be able to get inside their minds with a good author who can tell us how they're feeling. My God, it's fucking outstanding. And what their motivations are, and I'm having a tough time holding back from spoilers. So I'll leave you with this. Read The High Republic, read Convergence. Thank you so much for joining me here. And if you're on the Patreon, stick around. If you're looking for spoilers, head to patreon.com/CoroBloom. That's where you'll get some more discussion out of me concerning the nitty-gritty, the details of it all. So thank you very much. Bye-bye. Psych. Let's talk Yoda #1. I loved this book, man. I'm so excited to keep picking this up. Yoda #1, written by Cavan Scott, art by Nico Leone, with colors by Dona Sanchez Almada, and letters by Joe Caramagna. I've been looking forward to this comic run for months now, ever since it started being advertised in the back of some other comic books. Yoda, obviously one of my favorite Star Wars characters of all time, a top 5 Star Wars character of all time for me, and I really care about the way that he's adapted in various media. You know, I think there's been some hits. I think there's been some misses. One of the biggest hits in recent memory, The Midnight Horizon, fucking outstanding. Another High Republic book, strongly recommended. Go check it out. But I loved this. I loved this book. We start with him on Dagobah, kind of looking back on his life and listening to some message in the Force, which I think is interesting. A voice calling out to him, Master Yoda, "Do you hear me?" And I don't know, man. I don't know. That was kind of cool to me. But and it doesn't really become clear who he's talking to, but it molds into a flashback to a planet in the Outer Rim called Turrak, Turrak, and seeing this cool purple species, an awesome species that I don't think I've ever seen before, like purple skin, really large black eyes, very, very cool. But they're being invaded by some pirates they claim themselves to be for the Kruklon, Kruklon. I love when Star Wars just expands all these species, all these people. It's really fucking cool. But I love that the little kid Bree ends up making it out and being able to get a message out to Coruscant. Everyone's like, man, is this really worth our time? The Jedi Council's like, is this really what we should do? And Yoda's like, fuck yeah, it's what we should do. And you know what? I'm going to go deal with it, all right? I'm going to show up with these people under attack, and I'm going to show them the tide has turned. The people, the Jedi, are here for them. And this is some of my favorite Yoda I've ever gotten. The visuals here of him just slicing and dicing. Wonderful quotes from him. This is why we serve. Turned the tide has. Him using the Force to disarm a bunch of enemies. That's exactly what I want out of Yoda, you know? And him ultimately coming face to face with some of those who were hurt and being so kind to them, you know. I think that's what's so great about Yoda is I remember back in Attack of the Clones, like Yoda and the Younglings, truly wonderful, the mind of a child is, you know, like that's what he's about, you know. And I think they maintain that spirit here. And Cavan Scott doesn't really miss, you know. I think Cavan Scott's one of my favorite writers in all of Star Wars. But I love that the young kid is about to commit a murder, and Yoda tells him, "Patient we must be for the light. No, this is not the way out of it, not the way it should be." And as for you, go now, he says to the person who was about to get his brains bashed in by the little one. And he warns these invaders, protected this island is. Our island. Our home. And they're like, your home? You don't belong here. You're a Jedi. He said, maybe I didn't, but I do now. And I like that Yoda's like, you know what? Fuck it. I'm staying. This is my home for at least a little bit. And I absolutely loved it. I loved it so much. The way that he cares about these people, you know, this last little interaction between Bree where he gives him a little smile. He goes, my name is Yoda. We will learn together. And obviously, this is going to continue to be a conflict as these invaders just ran off to regroup. But that's a problem for Yoda number 2. And I'm left just mighty satisfied with Yoda number 1. I think that if there's any comic book, if you're not a comic book collector, if you're not a comic book reader, but you're a Star Wars fan, maybe this is where you start. Maybe this is where you start. You know, Kevin Scott, a great writer, can't recommend it enough. Yoda, a great character, an iconic character, and one that I was surprised to see was getting his own comic run, but he makes perfect sense in that medium. I don't know why it hasn't been done prior, and maybe it has, and I just haven't looked deep enough. But as far as I recall, I don't think I've ever read an issue with Yoda carrying his own whole series. So I'm so excited about it. It kind of reminiscent of the Obi-Wan Kenobi one very recently, where it started with him on Dagobah, kind of reminiscing on his past, the way that Obi-Wan in his recent book was in the desert sands of Tatooine writing in a journal about his old experiences and how he reflects on them. Like, I think this could be a really good opportunity to kind of see where Yoda's head was at when he was on Dagobah and in his last days. Maybe, and that's what's interesting too. They don't really make it clear. I assume this is before Luke came to Dagobah and saw him, but there is the possibility that it is after, and it's in between Empire and Return of the Jedi. And again, that would be very cool, and it would be in keeping with a lot of the ongoing comics right now. They're all taking place between Empire and Return of the Jedi. So it could truly be him on his deathbed, like ready to go out. And man, that'll be sad. That'd be sad. But I really like where he's at. I really like the story. I really like where they've taken it, and I'm excited. I love Kevin Scott. I love Yoda. This is a recipe for greatness right here. So check out Yoda. Check out Yoda number 1. I strongly recommend it. That did come out last week. A little late on the review for it, but it's utterly fantastic. It's to have the physical, man. Go to your local comic shop and buy comic books. It's so fucking great. I saw a quote recently that I know maybe Stan Lee said it, but it was credited to Stan Lee. I just don't believe he said it, but it was like comic books are like titties. They look great on a computer screen, but it's so much better to hold one in my hand. And don't know if Stan Lee actually said that. I doubt he did. But it's an utterly fantastic quote and 1,000% true. To have the physical comic book is a different experience than going online and reading it. And I know that many, if you don't have the means to scrounge together some money and head to your local comic shop, there are many a way that I will not tell you how to acquire these books for free online, but there are many resources where you can find those through not so legal means, but they're there. So, however you can read comics, get access to Yoda number 1. Check that shit out for me, because I love it. I love it with all my heart, and I strongly recommend that you pick it up. Yoda number 1 by Kevin Scott and Nico Leone. Can't recommend it enough. If you love Yoda, you'll love this, and fuck yeah, man. With that, I'll conclude this episode of Rebellion's Bloom. Thank you so much for joining me today. It was such a pleasure to have you. Like I said earlier on that High Republic Convergence review, spoiler review. It's a 40-minute episode instead of 20 minutes. over on patreon.com/CoroBloom. I go into all my favorite little parts of that book. All my favorite parts of that book over there. Patreon.com/CoroBloom. Head to Twitter, follow at PennyBloomPod, and on Hive at PennyBloomPod, on Tumblr at PennyBloomPod, follow on Instagram at PennyBloomPodcast. Remember to leave a 5-star rate and review wherever you are listening. Share us with a friend. Come back on Friday for our 52-year journey through film, which is continuing this week with 2018's Blind Spotting, starring Daveed Diggs. Very excited for you all to hear that. Remember to keep rewatching Game of Thrones for Winter is Blooming with us. On Mondays, we continue next week. I recently put out an open call for our comic book movie project coming up in 2023. We got a few more bites, which I'm very excited about. Colin Brain versus the MCU. Excited to have you for our X-Men episode. Very cool. But if you're interested in joining us for that, go ahead and head to Twitter. Hit me up and let's talk about it. Again, that's at PennyBloomPod. And remember, peace, love, and bloom. And for light and life.